I do think it's incredible how strong and how you've been able to cope, really. And I put that down to your really early years, childhood experience, but also the relationship that you've got. You're amazingly close.
For nearly 2 years, the Prince and Princess of Wales mastered a kind of royal disappearing act. While the world watched the monarchy for clues, William and Catherine kept their most personal struggles locked behind palace doors, choosing whispers over statements and privacy over performance. They were the couple who could hold a straight face through any storm, the ultimate professionals of polite restraint. Then, almost without warning, the silence stopped working. The carefully built wall around them developed cracks, and what started as a tightly controlled medical update grew into a wave of disclosures that changed how people see them. From a cancer battle they concealed for months to finally addressing one of the most toxic scandals to touch the modern royal family, William and Catherine have begun opening doors they once kept firmly shut. And the cost of that shift, emotionally and publicly, is becoming impossible to ignore. The turning point, insiders and royal watchers agree, was Catherine's health crisis, because nothing disrupts palace choreography like a diagnosis that refuses to fit the script. In January 2024, Kensington Palace released a short, almost sterile message. The Princess of Wales had undergone planned abdominal surgery. The tone suggested routine, recovery, and reassurance, as if everything was organized and under control. It was the kind of statement designed to stop questions before they start, but behind the scenes, the picture was far more frightening. Post-surgery tests revealed malignant cells, and suddenly this wasn't about a scheduled procedure or a brief break from public life, but a deeply personal medical emergency that reshaped everything for Catherine, William, and their children. For weeks, the public was left with a vacuum, and in the age of constant content, emptiness becomes fuel. Online speculation spiraled into obsession. People demanded answers about where Catherine was, whether she was truly unwell, and why the palace was offering so little. TikTok and YouTube filled with conspiracies, and the longer official channels said nothing, the louder the noise became. In hindsight, many royal commentators acknowledged that the strategy backfired, because silence no longer reads as dignity to a modern audience, it reads as avoidance. By March 2024, the pressure had reached a breaking point, and the response that finally came didn't look like a traditional royal announcement at all. Instead, Catherine appeared in a filmed message, seated on a garden bench, noticeably slimmer but steady and composed, speaking straight into the camera in a way the royal family rarely allows. She confirmed what the internet had been guessing and what the palace had refused to say. She had cancer, she was undergoing preventive chemotherapy, and she needed time, privacy, and space to recover. The shock wasn't only the diagnosis, it was the candor. Royals are trained to project calm, not vulnerability, but Catherine's directness cut through the usual formalities and landed with a global audience that recognized something unmistakably human. In that one moment, the Princess of Wales stepped outside the traditional performance of emotional restraint, and it changed the tone of the entire conversation around her. As Catherine retreated to focus on treatment, William's life also visibly rearranged itself. He pulled back from public duties in a way that would have been unthinkable in previous years, canceling engagements and vanishing from the royal calendar. This was a striking shift for someone who had faced criticism in the past for not doing enough appearances. Now he wasn't showing up at all, and remarkably, the usual complaints didn't stick. Most people understood why. The prince wasn't simply taking time. He was, by all accounts, choosing to be a husband and a father first. During an interview in Brazil, William spoke with unusual openness about the hardest part, telling George, Charlotte, and Louis what was happening. He admitted it was deeply difficult and that there is no manual for being a parent, explaining that he and Catherine decided they needed to communicate much more with their children. The experience marked the beginning of a new, more transparent chapter, not because they suddenly craved attention, but because reality forced their hand. When Catherine later returned to the public conversation, it wasn't with a glossy comeback photo or a perfectly staged appearance. On January 14, 2025, she posted a statement on social media that stopped royal watchers in their tracks. "It is a relief to now be in remission, and I remain focused on recovery." The words were simple, but the impact was enormous. ABC News reported a collective exhale around the world, as if millions of people had been waiting to breathe again. Still, anyone expecting the Princess of Wales to slide neatly back into her old, polished routine underestimated what cancer leaves behind. Catherine has been clear that the end of treatment doesn't mean the end of the struggle, and her willingness to say so has become one of the most striking changes in how she presents herself. During a visit to a hospital in Essex, Catherine spoke to patients with a blunt honesty that felt worlds away from the carefully managed royal language people are used to. She described how, during treatment, you put on a sort of brave face and practice stoicism just to get through it. Then treatment ends and you assume you can simply get back to normal, she explained, but actually the phase afterward is really, really difficult. The message resonated because it wasn't framed as inspiration or triumph. It was the truth, delivered without varnish, and it showed a princess speaking peer-to-peer with people who understood the same fear. The woman once known for immaculate composure was now revealing the messier reality of survival, and in doing so, she began to look less like a symbol and more like someone audiences could genuinely relate to. Even small moments have taken on extra meaning in this new era. During a visit to a London brewery in March 2026, Catherine declined a drink with a line that instantly made headlines. "Since my diagnosis, I haven't had much alcohol. It's something I have to be a lot more conscious of now." For most people, it would have been an everyday comment. For a senior royal whose calendar traditionally includes banquets, receptions, and endless glasses raised for the cameras, it signaled something bigger. Catherine wasn't only talking about health, she was quietly acknowledging that her life has shifted and she's adapting in real time. She has also spoken about the role nature played in her healing, leaning into the outdoors as something more than a pleasant backdrop for photo opportunities. That theme became central to her Mother Nature video series launched in 2025, which was described as a personal creative reflection on recovery and renewal. According to those close to the couple, early morning walks in the countryside and time spent outside became a stabilizing force during her treatment and beyond. On her 44th birthday in January 2026, Catherine shared the final installment and wrote that the Mother Nature series had been a deeply personal creative reflection on how nature has helped me heal, while also framing it as a wider reminder of what nature and creativity can offer people collectively. The transformation observers have noted since her illness is subtle but unmistakable, quieter, more grounded, less interested in perfection, and more interested in meaning. It's a version of Catherine that inspires a different kind of admiration, built on resilience rather than polish. While Catherine's recovery reshaped how the public connects with her, another shift was unfolding in how the Waleses handle the royal family's darker headlines. For years, William and Catherine kept their distance from the scandal surrounding Prince Andrew, staying diplomatically silent and allowing the institution to manage the fallout. The unspoken strategy was classic monarchy: say nothing, feed nothing, wait it out. But in early 2026, that approach collapsed under the weight of new revelations. In late January 2026, the U.S. Justice Department released more than 3 million pages of documents, including details about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, and his connections to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The sheer scale of the material made the old silence feel untenable. Kensington Palace released a statement confirming that William and Catherine were deeply concerned by the continuing revelations and emphasized that their thoughts remained with the victims. It was the first time Britain's most popular royals had publicly addressed the Epstein-related scandal as documents continued to emerge, and the timing appeared calculated rather than reactive. The comments landed as William was on an official visit to Saudi Arabia, suggesting the palace wanted the message to read as deliberate, not panicked. In essence, it drew a bright line. The future of the monarchy, as embodied by William and Catherine, does not want to be associated with Andrew's shadow. It also aligned with broader moves within the institution. In October, King Charles stripped Andrew of his royal titles, shifting him away from prince styling and toward the more stripped-back identification of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and he was required to leave Royal Lodge near Windsor Castle, a change said to have been in planning for some time. For William, this has never been only a public relations headache. It's been personal, and sources close to the palace have long suggested he pushed for firmer action for years. He understands, perhaps more than anyone of his generation inside the firm, that public trust is the oxygen the monarchy lives on, and that trust is impossible to maintain if people believe the institution protects those linked to serious wrongdoing. William and Catherine breaking their long-held silence wasn't accidental or emotional, it was positioning. It signaled that the next era will not be defined by other people's scandals, and it told both the public and the palace that the line is no longer negotiable. At the same time, the couple has been rewriting the rules of how they communicate, and nowhere is that more obvious than online. For most of their years in the spotlight, William and Catherine's media presence was disciplined and tightly curated, centered on selected engagements, approved images, and the occasional carefully staged family photo. Then in 2025, the tone began to change, and by their New Year post for 2026, the shift was impossible to miss. They shared 12 hand-picked photos from the previous year, and the post drew more than 300,000 likes, roughly triple the engagement of King Charles and Queen Camilla's own New Year message. What caught attention wasn't only the numbers, it was the editorial choice behind them. Out of 12 images, only one included their children, reflecting the line they're trying to hold between public role and private family life. Royal expert Jenny Bond has said William and Catherine are likely to keep refining their social media approach to draw in younger audiences who will shape the monarchy's future, and their recent content has felt more personal and more relatable. William has spoken more openly about parenting in the middle of a cancer crisis. Catherine has shared more of her inner world through her Nature Focus series, and notably has signed posts with a simple C, a detail that suggests the words are coming from her, not a faceless press office. Even her brother, James, has expressed pride in her authenticity, saying she remains the same person she was when he was growing up with her. The digital pivot appears both intentional and real, driven by a simple truth of modern celebrity culture. Public figures who connect tend to thrive, while those who hold back risk being left behind. All of this is unfolding against the unavoidable fact that William and Catherine are no longer merely supporting players in the royal story. They are preparing for the crown, and people feel that gravity when they walk into a room. The couple has treated that responsibility with visible urgency, building work that looks less like ribbon cutting and more like long-term legacy. In 2026, they are set to begin granting royal warrants, a significant step that officially allows them to endorse businesses and products, a power historically held by the monarch and a small circle of senior royals. Their charitable engine has also been growing. In 2024, their royal foundation raised £12.2 million, a 53% increase in income, with American Friends of the Royal Foundation contributing more than £2.5 million in grants. William's Earthshot Prize raised £23.9 million in the year ending March 2025, further cementing him as a major figure in environmental philanthropy rather than a royal merely posing beside a project. Their portfolio is broad and serious, spanning mental health, homelessness, early childhood development, ocean conservation, support for rangers, and swimming lessons for underprivileged communities. These are not casual interests. They are funded and structured initiatives designed to withstand time and scrutiny. Jenny Bond has noted that becoming king and queen is an enormous weight, and she believes their focus is on making their current roles as effective as possible. A palace source told The Telegraph that in 2026 the couple wants at least one event each month that spotlights businesses and community heroes, with an emphasis on showcasing the best of Britain. The message is clear. They aren't sitting around waiting for the crown to arrive. They're acting like the future is already in motion. The same careful calculation is playing out in how they handle their children's visibility. For years, William and Catherine kept George, Charlotte, and Louis largely out of sight, allowing appearances at select moments like Trooping the Colour, Christmas services, and the occasional school-related event, before retreating behind the gates of Adelaide Cottage in Windsor. The public mostly accepted the boundaries, understanding William's sensitivity given his own childhood under relentless scrutiny. But the balance began to shift in 2025, and the momentum has continued. William's outing with Princess Charlotte to the UEFA Women's Euro 2025 final in Basel, Switzerland, became one of those defining snapshots. Father and daughter seated alongside Spain's Princess Leonor and Infanta Sofia, reacting to the match with matching intensity, and then presenting medals after England's win. The joy looked unfiltered, and social media immediately buzzed about how much Charlotte resembles her dad. Meanwhile, Prince George has been edging into view in smaller but meaningful ways, including public interactions with veterans highlighted in the couple's annual posts. Observers saw it for what it likely is, a gradual introduction, not a sudden push. As second in line to the throne, George's public presence carries a different kind of significance, and that becomes even more delicate as he turns 13 in July 2026 and begins secondary school, potentially spending more time away from home. Ginny Bond has said this transition will require adjustments for the entire family, because it marks the shift from protected childhood to early preparation for a life that will never be fully private. William understands that better than anyone, having grown up with cameras waiting for him in moments of grief and upheaval. Now, he and Catherine are making high-stakes decisions about how to prepare George for royal life while still shielding him from the worst of what fame can do, all without a definitive rulebook and with the world watching every move. Through all these changes, something else has quietly come into focus: their marriage, stripped of the fairy tale gloss and revealed as a partnership forged under pressure. For years, their story was sold as the dream scenario, the commoner who married a future king and made it look effortless. But recent events have shown the reality is more layered, and in many ways more compelling. A royal insider has said their children sit at the center of both William and Catherine's lives, and that they are deeply hands-on parents who put family above everything else. When Catherine's health crisis hit, William did not outsource the hard parts or hide behind royal routine. Reports described him handling school runs, being present during hospital visits, and prioritizing home life over duty in a way that surprised even longtime observers and softened some former critics. A palace source has also said that during Catherine's cancer treatment, creativity became a lifeline for her, and William supported that, encouraging activities like painting, playing the piano, photography, and taking walks in nature. Catherine has described the experience as life-changing, and she has been candid that after treatment, they had to find a new normal together as a family. By 2026, the Waleses were increasingly seen as a couple willing to stand by their own choices even when tradition pushes back. They've faced illness, scandal by association, relentless scrutiny, and an institution that can feel shaky in a changing world, and yet the story emerging now is not one of obligation. It's of two people repeatedly choosing each other, not because duty demands it, but because they genuinely want to. That shift is why the public fascination has intensified. The image control era, the polished perfection, the poised silence has been disrupted by something more powerful: reality. Catherine is not just a style icon or a royal figurehead anymore. She's a cancer survivor who has openly admitted recovery can be brutal and disorienting. William is not only a future king in training, he's a man who, when it mattered most, stepped away from the spotlight to protect his family. Together, they've shown a willingness to address scandals they once avoided, to modernize how they communicate, and to build a working model of monarchy that feels less ceremonial and more connected. They may no longer be able to hide who they are, and judging by the way they're speaking now, they may not want to. If this story kept you hooked, make sure you subscribe, and because this royal chapter feels like it's only just getting started, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you see William and Catherine as the couple the monarchy needs next?